So we'll move back now to paper number 7, recipients of donations from council organisations in lieu of councillor director fees and review of the policy. And we were undertaking questions at the time, and I think we're up to Jake McLennan. Thank you.
Yeah, my question was actually the same as Sam's, as much as I remember it all those hours ago. But I just wanted to make sure, because obviously the OAG have come back saying let's do an extra thing in the form of this waiver. Does that mean that if we hadn't have done it, we would have been on shaky ground, or is this just a further thing that we could have done to ensure we're on even better ground?
I provided you with my advice, which was that this could be regarded as a policy matter and that in effect all members had a financial interest in one form or another, either currently or potentially. So therefore, my advice, although I said it wasn't black and white, and there was a risk, was to participate. You elected to seek advice from the OAG, and effectively the OAG has validated that advice and said to you that you won't be in breach of the Members' Interest Act if you all took part. And that essentially is it.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Were there any other questions? Aaron.
Yeah, just referring to the letter dated the 19th of June, in your letter to the OAG, the first line is, on behalf of all members, the Christchurch City Council has requested a declaration. And so I thought we would have had a heads up that us, because it says on behalf of all the members, that we would know we're asking for that declaration. Because that sounds like a council decision.
No,
that line there.
It reflected the wording of the Act more than anything.
Yeah.
And I just assumed that because I'd been sent away to get advice to all of you, I undertook the OAG process on behalf of all of you. I'm sorry if I should not have taken that assumption, but you know me, I play a straight bat, and I thought what I was doing was fine.
Thank you.
And importantly, had the support of the Chief Executive as well.
Sorry.
And had the support of the Chief Executive.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. So, we'll go back to the motion. So, and I am going to note that the councillors that serve on Tahua Mayor's Welfare Fund Charitable Trust will not participate in the vote on item number 1, which is the proposed recipient of the allocation of funding from donations in lieu of councillor director's fees. So the motion has been moved and seconded.
Could we put Imagination Station separately?
Oh, and we are going to deal with Imagination Station separately.
Put 1, 1 and 1, 2.
1, so Imagination Station, then obviously the council directors that are on the Mayor's Welfare Fund can vote on that one, but they can't vote on number 2. So, but I will
put 3 separately.
Separately, sorry.
3 as well.
Number 3, yes, we can put 3 separately. So,
do you wish to recap?
Okay. No. We'll put 1.
1, 1.
Yeah, 1, 1, 1, 2, and we'll just go and we'll do 3, and then we'll just do the balance. All right. It only leaves 2 and 4. So yeah. All right. So I'll open it up for debate. Sarah.
Thank you. While I had to apply for a directorship on CCHL and was selected through an interview process, it is only by dint of being a city councillor that I was even able to enter that process. It is part of my job, and I willingly applied knowing that there was no additional remuneration. Yes, there is a bit of risk under the Companies Act, but there is significant insurance, and frankly, if I'm doing my job well, then the risk is mitigated. What I don't want is for the donations from CCHL and Christchurch NZ to the Mayor's Welfare Fund, which supports the city's most vulnerable, to be redirected into councillors' pockets. Frankly, if the vote goes the wrong way, I'd be donating fees unpaid anyway. And metropolitan organisations like the Mayor's Welfare Fund and Imagination Station are the right places for these funds. For individual councillors to pick and choose groups from their wards gives rise to the perception that they are shoring up support ahead of the next election. Letting the report lay on the table last time, while frustrating, has allowed us to get crystal clear declaration from the Office of the Auditor-General. We can all vote, and we should all vote to make it clear where we stand on the issue. Prevaricating on the declaration because it makes it uncomfortable to take a position at a time that the public are very interested is disingenuous.
Andrew?
Thank you. I continue to support the retention of the current policy, where directors' fees are paid predominantly to the Mayor's Welfare Fund rather than to councillors directly, and there are some very good reasons why. Councillors are already adequately remunerated. We don't need additional remuneration for additional work that we do, and in fact, there's an argument that this isn't additional work. Sitting on boards of CCOs we're appointed to as councillors is part of our role, just like sitting on a zone committee, sitting on the board of a community trust or of a museum. Other positions of additional responsibility which also carry no additional remuneration. The argument isn't that the argument's put that the additional responsibility of being a director carries additional risk, and it does, but actually possibly no more so than some of the other unpaid roles that I've mentioned, and arguably in a well-insured, well-organised and best practice environment, quite possibly with less risk. And in any case, training's available, advice is available, all of which mitigates that risk. And of course, a person doesn't need to accept a directorship or any other role of responsibility unless they're comfortable with all of the aspects and risks of doing so. At the beginning of this term, all of the councillors who accepted directorships took them on under the current policy, and it's therefore a reasonable assumption that they were comfortable doing that at that time. The Mayor's Welfare Fund and other charitable organisations that benefit from this policy from time to time achieve a lot in the community, and I strongly support the redistribution of the benefit that arises from the directors' fees to those who actually need them, and sharing the benefits more widely than just the pockets of a few individual councillors. I therefore completely disagree with those who say that councillors should be able to pocket the directors' fees themselves. We don't need them, and I for one don't want them. I also disagree with those who say councillors should be able to decide themselves where the directors' fees should go. This could easily lead to negative perceptions of favour or of an advantage to those councillors who do earn directors' fees versus those who don't. The more transparent, the easiest and the cleanest way of dealing with this, and in fact the most socially beneficial way of dealing with this, particularly in the current environment, and I believe actually the most sensible way of dealing with this, is to retain the current policy and apply it as widely and as strictly as possible. Therefore, I'm strongly supportive of the motion.
Sam?
Yeah, thank you very much. Look, this policy doesn't impact me personally. The board I sit on doesn't receive directors' fees, so I want to make that clear from the outset. My major concern is with the process around this. For me, we started this and we referred it to the Office of the Auditor-General. We asked for advice on whether there was a conflict. They came back and said there was a conflict, and as a result, we've applied for a declaration. To me, that isn't something that's very tidy at all, and in my view, it just doesn't sit well, and it shouldn't sit well with the public. I fundamentally disagree with the advice that says that everyone is captured with this. They're not. We have people that sit on boards that are remunerated. By definition, there is a conflict. They are today either voting to receive that money or not. And regardless of the side of the fence you sit on that debate, that you need to be objective. And I don't think you can when you have the potential to receive that income. So that makes me feel very uncomfortable. So look, I don't feel comfortable at all participating in this. I'll be abstaining today. And as I say, I sit on the civic building. I don't receive fees. It doesn't impact me in the slightest. I just feel deeply uncomfortable that there would be members participating today that could potentially receive that money. And from my point of view, that doesn't pass the front page of the paper test. And I think we need to do far better as a city and restore public confidence. So I'll be abstaining.
James?
Thanks. Look, I've made it clear in the past that if I were to receive directors' fees, both last term or now in light of this decision, that I would choose to personally donate them to charity. I think that's fair for people to know my clear intention with fees alongside my position on them, and stating one without the other just isn't fair. But while we're on the topic of fairly remunerating for a job increases quality and increases accountability. Not fairly remunerating for a job decreases quality and decreases accountability. Yes, there will be outlying exceptions to that rule, but that's all they are. They are exceptions, and it doesn't reflect the trend that occurs. And as much as you may not like it, it's why people pay for goods and services. So from a perspective of board dynamics, remunerating some but not others creates an A team and a B team, whether that's intended or not. It's why you don't see iwi directors who sit on their holdings company boards not being remunerated, or why you don't see shareholder directors on a sizable board not being remunerated. If you think the law views you differently because you sit on the council, think again. The fact that you call yourself a councillor director is irrelevant to the 1993 Companies Act. If you think that D&O insurance safeguards you from being personally prosecuted, think again. If you think you're indemnified from health and safety law, like you are as a councillor, think again. If you think you need to personally do quite a bad job to arrive in that situation, think again. There are numerous examples when they have done everything within their power to the best of their ability, but have ended up in quite disastrous circumstances professionally for the rest of their careers. But personally, I would choose not to keep remuneration from sitting on a board of a council company. That's my call. But if you think fair remuneration shouldn't be payable for undertaking a professional role in which you want to attract highly capable people, then I wish you all the best in your pursuit of mediocrity. That being said, I will abstain on recommendation 3. That's a personal call for me to make. And although the Auditor-General has based their advice on the fact that all councillors could possibly be conflicted because they could possibly be directors, my view is that some are blatantly more conflicted than others. I'm included in that. If the vote was at the beginning of the term, prior to director appointments being made, I would take part and vote on recommendation 3, but it's not. So I voted in the past, but my views changed, especially after the Ombudsman's report, which highlighted concerns around probity and transparency. Notwithstanding that, on the basis that the council decision is for directors not to be remunerated, I'll happily support the remaining recommendations in the report and up on the screen there. One item that I do want to signal out is the $50,000 support to the Imagination Station. I cannot speak more highly of them. They started post-earthquake, and to be fair, not ideal to be a little kid in Christchurch immediately after the earthquake. And they've done a superb job and continue to. But unfortunately, their position in the library is, on one hand, perfectly well placed, but on the other hand is a double-edged sword, because a lot of the philanthropic sources that they would normally get funding from incorrectly presume that they're part of the council and fully funded by us. This isn't so. So I'm very supportive for $50,000 to be directed to them because they need it. And in the event that directors were to be remunerated in line with commercial best practice, not that I'm necessarily anticipating that happening, but I would pledge that I would give $50,000 out of my own pocket to the Imagination Station. So it's not going to affect me personally. I'm doing it as a matter of principle because it aligns with best practice. And I would like to see the Imagination Station supported because they need it. I understand that there might be a desire to find alternate sources of funding, and that's a pretty good idea, but I won't shut down the good in pursuit of the great if that's not something that's capable or possible to happen today. So the Imagination Station, and 1, 2 and 4 I will support, and I'll abstain on 3. Thanks.
Jake and Pauline.
Yeah, look, issues of process are a sideshow in my view. We've been through the process. We've been to the office of the Auditor-General. It isn't correct to say that they overruled that there was a conflict. The truth is they said there was never one to begin with. Putting that issue to a side, it's pretty clear that many councillors around this table simply feel they're not remunerated well enough and believe that they should be paid more for the expertise that they bring to this table. In my view, people that hold that view are simply being greedy on this issue.
Pauline?
Yeah, thank you. Look, just briefly, I'd just like to address a couple of things that Councillor Gough raised, and the fact that this is local government. These boards are comprised of private individuals plus representatives from around this table. And if Councillor Gough believes that the this is not a group of highly capable people, then I join issue with that, because you're implying that if we sat on boards where we're not paid, we're not remunerated, the boards would not be populated with highly capable people. So I actually think that is not correct. And
that's
I think
not correct in itself. I'm sorry. I said that it removes
there
accountability.
is risk
can't
around the
interrupt during
table,
the
and
debate,
I
please.
myself sit on the Canterbury Museum Board. I don't get any remuneration for that, and there's considerable hours in that. So, and on zone committees, I think we're here as councillors, as Councillor Turner said, we're remunerated quite well. We don't need to receive further remuneration. This is local government. Even staff who apply for jobs in this building have that lens over their application, because this is different. We serve people. We are serving the people of Christchurch. So with that lens on this issue, I totally support the recommendation today that the fees be forwarded through to these trusts.
Yanni and then Phil.
Thank you. Just to say that, given that I'm on one of the trusts that's going to be a significant beneficiary from this decision, not just for that explicit decision to give money to that specific trust, but also actually whether councillors' directors' fees get taken and put towards charity. I am going to abstain on the whole thing. I don't think it's a good look for myself to be involved in this, so I just wanted to make that really clear. I have no problem with other councillors whose organisations are not benefiting from the decision to participate, but for me personally, given that the Mayor's Welfare is one of the key beneficiaries, I'm just going to stand back from this whole thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Phil?
Right at the start, even though the policy said what it says, right at the start, I was always have said and made quite clear that whatever directors' fees that I got, I was going to give away to charities in my ward. Now, I can understand some councillors are a wee bit worried that it could be seen to me buying votes. So I'm more than happy to give them some money to their ward if that's what they would like. But I'm quite passionate about young kids in sport, and that's where all of the dough that I've got, and I've given it all away for the year, has gone, and that's there. So I just rather I won't be supporting this, whether I abstain or not, I don't know, because I would like to have a bit of control on where the money that I earn goes. Thank you.
Thank you. Melanie and Jimmy?
I believe that the fees are best to go to the Mayor's Welfare Fund, because then it means that the councillors as a whole make decisions about where fees from council directorships go to. And I think it's all of our job to make decisions about that, whether it goes to Imagination Station or other people.
Jimmy?
I support for the retention of the current policy, because while as a councillor, each one of us, we share different burdens. Some of the councillors are probably more partake of the maybe those community, as a board member, etc. Like myself, at the moment, I get involved in the Royal Air Force Museum board member, Richard Bush Trust board member, in the individual kind of board member, etc. But before I was the member is Canterbury and Christchurch, the tourism board director. But in that time, actually I taught to them beginning, but I was the councillor. Taught to them those the kind of the direct fee can directly to the Mayor Fund, etc. But they mentioned no list policy, so I still donate when I receive one. So donate to the Mayor Fund, etc. Because why? If we are not a councillor, whether we are eligible to be the board director or not, because they recruit us because we are the council. Otherwise, you are not councillor. You individually maybe to apply for your card. Now we have no any the argue, etc. And also as councillor, our focus on how do we to improve, strengthen our service to the people, to the community, to the group. That's our purpose. We are not here the next stage just try to get more additional income. I don't think so. And also as a councillor, we did have a good, reasonable payment already. This is my view. So that's why I support for the retention of the current policy.
I have Aaron and then Tim.
Yeah. This is a bit of a tricky one. I, like Sam, agree that I don't think the process was a completely smooth one. The definition of a conflict is voting on something that you can have a financial gain from. So I think we're about to vote on something where you can have a financial gain. That's pretty clear. The points I want to raise are more around some of the claims that are being made around the table over councillors sitting on these boards. Look, I actually back the ability of everyone at this table. I don't always agree with them, of course, but I back their ability. And I've sat on many different organisations and boards over my 10 years and have always believed that the councillors have brought as much to the table as any other member, probably barring a couple that I've sat with, and who punched above their weight. Ones like Barry Bragg would be a clear example of an incredibly good board member. But and I will point him out because I do really respect the guy, and James knows him and stuff, and you can learn a lot from people like that. But I've never seen my fellow councillors dragging the chain on any board, and the suggestion that you shouldn't, when you take risks and do more work than someone else, you shouldn't be remunerated for it, I think should be across the board. If you either do that or you don't. So, the deputy mayor maybe should just be paid the same as the rest of the councillors, because, it's a debate. Certainly the MPs, the cabinet ministers, need to just halve their salaries back down to the same as the other MPs, because they're already doing a full-time job, and a bit of extra work isn't really a big deal. So they should just, in our communist utopia that we're all working towards, we should all be paid exactly. Yeah, we should all be paid exactly. Hey, I believed in communism when I was 10. And at my first year at high school, I met the foreign minister from Russia, and we were still behind the curtain. So not him and I. Russia was behind the curtain, and in fact, it was one of the best days of my high school years. Was that hearing him speak? Behind the curtain. Yeah, hearing him speak. Come on. That aside, it's odd that we pick and choose certain things, I feel, more for political gain than for the best outcome. And I agree with Phil, if the policy is going to be to donate your fees, you should choose where they go to. Because I've got a whole lot of charities that you lot wouldn't agree with, that I would be more than happy, and they're not in my ward, they're across the city, but they're particular ones that I have special interests in. Animals, for instance, I don't think the council does bugger all to support them, so I would be putting my funds there, or certain disability groups that we don't help some others. So why can I not choose if that is the council's policy? But because of the way we got here today, I will abstain from voting, because I don't believe this is the right process to get to this. It should have been done at the start of term before we appoint any one member. And I think for the next term that should be the way forward, and I would participate then if I was given the honour of representing the greatest ward in Christchurch again.
Sorry. Tim.
Thank you. Look, I'm actually going to support Jamie Goff's comment with regards to this should be sorted at the very start of the electoral triennium. It should be started before anyone is elected or put onto boards, and it should stay for the 3 years. I totally support Phil Majors about if you're going to get paid, then, and this is what I talked about when I first got elected, I brought this subject up about if I'm going to get paid as a member of a board, then I should choose where that money goes. But that should all be sorted at the very beginning of the triennial, and it should stay for the 3 years. This is wasting time, wasting ratepayers' money going over this again and again. I will not be supporting the Imagination Station, and it's not a slur against them at all. They do fantastic work. But why one organisation and the Mayor's Welfare Fund when there are so many other good organisations that do such good work? I don't understand why this one has been singled out. And I will struggle with 2, and I will not be supporting 2, simply because the last line states Mayor's Welfare Fund Charitable Trust, unless otherwise advised by the council before 30th of June each year. Again, I believe that should be sorted at the beginning of the triennial before any councillor is put onto a trust. This should all be sorted at the beginning. whether you agree or not, it's a democracy. We all vote on it. Should be done by numbers, and then we live with that for the 3 years until the next triennial. So that's my situation.
Mike?
I wasn't going to talk, but everyone else seems to have, so I might as well jump in. Look, it's been an interesting debate, and it's, apart from Councillor Johansson, who I agree with his abstention, it's the people voting against this or abstaining. They have a common theme, and they all want 0% rates increases, but yet they still want to pocket all the money they can possibly get. Look.
No, point of order with that. No, every single person that has spoken has said that they're not even going to keep the money. So I think that's completely...
It's a debatable matter. I'm sorry. This is
my opinion, Sam. Could you follow process yourself?
Please keep order. Order. Mike.
The obvious reactions probably means I'm right. To try and blame, use the information that we received from the Office of the Auditor General is, it's just grasping at straws. I think it's very clear that actually the information we received that we all can participate and vote on this decision. So to use that is just actually wrong, in my opinion. I personally believe that as a director that receives fees, we should not be keeping them or donating to our own charity of choice, because it does have the ability to be able to buy votes. So I believe that we should be putting all our money into the Mayor's Welfare Fund. It's actually a very good trust that will actually serve people that are struggling. I won't be supporting the Imagination Station because I don't think we should be choosing other organisations or charities. I think we should just be sticking to the one, but I support everything else.
Right, so I'll just wrap up the debate. James.
If you water it down or you render it down, our role on this, as being a councillor or being a director of a company, is all about two words: managing risk. That's all it is. And if you're in this role as a councillor, you deserve to be remunerated, and we are reasonably remunerated for that. But then when you're on a different body, be it a board, you're managing more risk, and some of those will have greater health and safety risks, which I won't get too deeply into, but you deserve to be remunerated for that. The question is what happens to it, and I don't think anyone here has said, I want to keep it. No one has given me that impression, and if I'd stayed in the process of appointments to boards, I would have gone down the track of saying that I would like to donate the funds or the remuneration to charities that I make the choice on, and that's why I didn't continue in the process. So therefore that leads me to not supporting number 3, because I would accept the minor amendment to the current policy to allow us to choose, and therefore I can't support 2 either, but I do support 1.
Right, so I'll just close off the debate. So the policy prior to 2013 was that directors who sat on companies as councillor directors, and yes, they are no different under the Companies Act to any other form of directors, they were paid the remuneration personally. They received their remuneration. So on top of the Mayor's salary, 2 directors' fees were paid. So that was probably in the region of an extra $50,000 a year paid to the Mayor. In addition to that, individual councillors were appointed to boards, and they are, although going through a recommendation process, they are ultimately signed off by the council. And if you are a mayor controlling more than 50% of the vote, as the previous mayor was, then I don't have the luxury of controlling a percentage of the vote on any issue, as people know. I'm 1 vote around the table. But when you do control it, and actually I have heard that team A team and B team, that term before. I've heard about the A team and the B team, and I'll tell you where it existed. It existed in this very room. So I'm just saying that when you have absolute control, then you can use directorships as reward. And that is unacceptable to me. And that is why I, when I got elected as mayor, said it wasn't fair that people that did that element of a councillor's role kept the remuneration for themselves. And I brought it to the table. And then this year, for the first time, I was asked to recommit the policy. I was asked by councillors. You asked me to put this on the agenda, and then you tried to say I couldn't debate it. Well, I'm sorry. I agree with the fact that we've got the issue of the Office of the Auditor General in front of us, and the one way of getting around the fact that every single person is potentially conflicted on this matter is to have the very document that we have in front of us. We're all entitled to vote on it. Now, if people feel that because I'm interested in the result, if I was going to vote on it, then I would vote, obviously, to retain the policy that I have championed from the minute that I arrived here. But you know who you are when I say you asked me to put this on the table, and you won't want me to debate it because you think that it is a conflict of interest. Well, I will debate it, and I have debated. I've told you what I think, and I believe that it's important now that we put the vote. But in order to ensure that anyone objects to my role in it, or that there is somehow a question mark thrown on a decision that any other council has made around this table, because we are entitled to our own views, I will also abstain from the vote. And that way we have achieved the outcome that we all want, which is that those of us that choose to abstain will not vote, in which case I'll have to get the motion moved and seconded by Andrew. Yep. Moved by Andrew and seconded by Jake. So, Andrew, I'll leave it over to you. No, I can still put the vote because I haven't conflicted myself. I'm going to abstain. So I will. I'll put the motion. All those in favour.
What one are you putting?
Sorry. We're going to go through number one. So those in favour of Imagination Station, the allocation, say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. And any abstentions?
Abstention.
So there's the abstentions are Catherine, Sam, and Aaron, and opposed is Tim and Mike. And
Yanni's an abstention too.
And Yanni's an abstention.
Yeah. Cool.
No, I'm not an abstention on that. I'm an abstention on the policy question. Yeah. It's just number 3, isn't it? It's the policy. Yeah. So the that's carried. Yeah. Carried. Yeah. Number 2.
1, 2.
All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Those abstaining. Catherine, Sam, Anne, Aaron and Yanni. Number 3. Yeah. No, it's just number 3. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. Division. So that's no. Oh, do you want a full division? Yeah. Okay.
Councillor Galloway? Councillor Johansson?
Abstention.
Councillor Turner?
Yes.
Councillor McClellan?
Yes.
Councillor Major?
No.
Councillor Goff?
Abstention.
Councillor MacDonald?
Abstention.
Councillor Kewen?
Abstention.
Councillor Cotter?
Yes.
Councillor Davidson?
Aye.
Councillor Scandrett?
Yes.
Councillor Chu?
Abstention.
Councillor Coker?
Yes.
Councillor Templeton?
Yes.
Councillor Daniels?
Carl, no.
Councillor Chen?
Yes.
The Mayor?
Abstention.
It's 8 votes for, 2 votes against and 7 abstentions.
Thank you. The next, that's carried. The next resolution is the balance of the resolution 2 and 4. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no.
Do you want another division?
That's carried. Well, it's a different resolution, so it won't be the same. I'm not abstaining from this one. This is, yeah, so.
Abstentions and
Can just let us know the abstentions and the, so it's the abstentions are Chu, McDonald and Kewen and Galloway, and the vote no, and Johansson, and vote no is Daniels and Scandra. Right, that's also carried. Thank you very much. All right, so now we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is